Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1. On behalf of the News First, the voice of the people, I am Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this afternoon.
3 suspects, including the wife of Rashad Badiuddin, arrested. Teachers decide to refrain from conducting aesthetic practical examinations at the GCE Ordinary Level exam. Opening ceremony of the 2020 Tokyo Olympics today. Israel appoints commission to probe Pegasus spyware maker NSO.
On to your top story this afternoon. Religious observances were held at temples across the island in line with the Asala full moon Poya Day. The religious ceremonies were conducted with strict adherence to COVID-19 regulations.
Pilgrims who visited the Anuradhapura sacred site engaged in religious observances while adhering to COVID-19 regulations. Many devotees were seen engaging in religious observances at the historic Galviharya in Polonnaruwa. Meanwhile, the Siri Sadaham Set Dhamma sermon was held at the office of the opposition leader Sajit Premadasa today. The sermon was delivered by the chief incumbent of the Gotatuwa Chandana Viharaya, Shastravedi Pandita Pujapada Hingure Panyasekara Thera. The puja organized by the Capital Maharaja Group at the Shakya Malake opposite the head office premises was held today. The event was sponsored by Sirasar FM. The Sirasa Asalapoya Day event will be telecast today from the Kirivehera Holy Grounds. Following religious observances conducted at the head office of the Capital Maharaja Group, the Velayudaya was taken to the sacred grounds in Kataragama and placed at the Sella Kataragama Devalaya last evening. The Velayudaya was brought to the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Devalaya, following which a puja was held. The Asala Mahaperahara of the historic Ruhunu Kataragama Devalaya will parade the streets tonight. The Perahara this year will be held while adhering to COVID-19 health regulations. The Dhamma sermon and discussion organized by GUM at the V-Force Dhammsavya was also held today. What is leadership used for? Leadership does not refer to the physical strength of a person or looks. It does include values, ideas, sacrifice, donation, and dedication towards others and selflessness. Leadership that includes these qualities can be called positive leadership. Instead of thinking that it is all right to steal if others are stealing as well, or we can't survive here if we don't steal, a leader must stand for the truth even in the face of death. If this is done, there will be at least 10 others who will follow this example. If we think that stealing is all right, and even others get help from politicians to get a job and become successful and do the same, there will be many others who will follow this bad example, and these people will contribute to the unsuccessful system. I propose that you should take it upon yourself personally to stand for what is right, even if others don't do the same. Then we will start our journey on a road towards change.
ඔක්කොම නැති වුණත් කමන්නේ ඔබ එතනින් අයින් වෙන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ වෙනස් වෙන මාවත එතනින් ආරම්භ වුණා කියන එක.
The Asala full moon Poya Day is very important in the Buddhist calendar. According to Buddhist history, many significant events had taken place on the Asala full moon Poya Day. Among them, the conception of Prince Siddhartha in Queen Mahamaya's womb occurred on the Asala full moon Poya Day. The prince lived a luxurious life and later realized that life was impermanent and full of suffering. Therefore, he was always determined to find a path or way to solve the problems of universal suffering. At the age of 29, the prince decided to leave the palace, leaving all comforts to find the way out of universal suffering. His great renunciation of worldly pleasures also took place on the Asala full moon Poya day 2600 years ago. It was on the Asala Poya day, 7 weeks after the attainment of Buddhahood, that Lord Buddha delivered his first discourse, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. It was also on this Poya day that the tooth relic was brought to Sri Lanka by Princess Hemamala and Prince Danta, giving birth to the Dalada Perhara. The Asala full moon Poya day commemorates the beginning of the Vas season, which signifies the bhikkhu's retreat during the rainy season.
The monastery building at the Kadigamuwa Sri Nagavanarama Rajamahaviharaya in Ramukana, that is managed by the Archaeological Department, is on the verge of destruction.
The Kadigamuwa Sri Nagavanarama Rajamahaviharaya is said to have been constructed by King Gajaba during the Polonnaruwa era. These valuable murals were added to the temple during periodic renovations of the temple carried out by 6 kings that rose to power thereafter. The other speciality of this temple is that it is the only temple to have 2 Tampita Viharayas. The Department of Archaeology took measures 8 years ago to protect the monastery building of the temple that was facing a threat of destruction. However, the donors of the temple allege that the protection afforded to the monastery building was only limited to this cover. This is the state of the ancient murals at the monastery building. This began with King Gajaba in 114 BC. About a 4 million rupee estimate has been made for this, but nothing has happened here. The roof was removed. I got some wood cut down from Muragahakanda for the roof. The cultural circle said they could construct this roof, but the Department of Archaeology did not give a letter for that either. I kind of request for someone to come forward and help preserve this building before it collapses.
Sri Lanka police said 3 suspects, including the wife of Rishad Badiuddin, were arrested in connection with the death of a 16-year-old girl who was employed as a domestic helper at the ex-minister's residence.
මෙම 16 හැවිරිදි දැරිය ක්‍රූරත්වයට භාජනය වී ඇති බව අනාවරණය වී තිබෙනවා.
It was confirmed that this 16-year-old girl had been subjected to abuse. The 46-year-old wife of the former minister was arrested this morning. Moreover, former minister's wife's father had also been arrested. The broker who had brought the girl to Colombo has also been arrested. The 3 arrested suspects are to be produced before the Colombo magistrate today.
අද දින කොළඹ මහේත්‍රාත් අධිකරණය වෙත ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමට නියමිතව තිබෙනවා.
A committee headed by Deputy Solicitor General Dilip Piris of the Attorney General's Department has been appointed to assist in the investigation into the incident. Meanwhile, former Minister Rishad Badiuddin's wife's brother has been arrested on charges of sexually abusing a 22-year-old domestic worker in the house.
ඇය සඳහන් කර තිබෙන්නේ 2015 සිට 2019 වර්ෂය දක්වා.
According to the victim, she had been working as a domestic worker at the former minister's residence from 2015 to 2019. She had further said she was abused during that time. The suspect has been identified. He is the brother of the former minister's wife. He is due to be produced to the courts after being questioned.
අධිකරණය වෙත ඉදිරිපත් කිරීමට නියමිතව තිබෙනවා.
Meanwhile, the government has decided to increase the minimum age required to work as a domestic worker to 18 years old. The authorities said it hopes to present the relevant amendment to Parliament in the near future.
The residents of Hambantota are living in fear as a wild elephant has been roaming in the area over the past few days.
According to our correspondent, this wild elephant has been roaming around the area over the past few weeks. The elephant had damaged a house in Siribopura, Hambantota earlier this morning. The occupants of the house said the elephant had caused damages to the house and consumed the paddy stored in the house. The wall of the house that the elephant destroyed had collapsed close to a bed where an occupant of the house was asleep. The villagers request the authorities to take the necessary steps to chase away this wild elephant.
Meanwhile, the farmers of Kalualpitya in the Badulla district staged a protest demanding for fertilizer today.
The protest was held at a paddy field in Kalualpitya. Many farmers in the area attended the protest, which was organized by the All Ceylon Farmers Association. The farmers demanded authorities to provide sufficient fertilizer for their cultivations as soon as possible. The farmers pointed out that their crops have already turned yellow as a result of their failure to use the required fertilizer on time.
They started talking about organic fertilizer after we started our cultivations. So we have no way of producing organic fertilizer now because it takes more time. We filled out forms in the hope that we will get chemical fertilizer, but we did not get that either. Final rights of the human rights activist attorney at Law Mano Rimurutugama was observed yesterday.
Attorney at Law Mano Rimurutugama, who was a strong human rights advocate, breathed her last on the 21st of this month. Attorney at Law Mano Rimurutugama, wife of former Minister Sarat Murutugama, chaired several presidential commissions in the past. Mano Rimurutugama was a lawyer and a civil rights activist who continuously stood for the rights of the people. She held the position of the secretary at the Bar Association and Sri Lanka Women's Front. She also chaired the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka and presidential commissions appointed to probe serious human rights violations. Attorney at Law Mano Rimurutugama, daughter of leftist political leader Colvin De Silva, was 85 years old at the time of her demise. The final rites of Mano Rimurutugama was observed yesterday at the Buralla Cemetery.
Your weather update for this afternoon. The meteorological department forecast showers in the island caused by southwest monsoon.
Showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamua, central and northwestern provinces and in the Gaul and Mathura districts. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamua province and in the Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Gaul and Mathura districts. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western province. According to the Met Department, few showers will occur in the north central province. Fairly strong gusty winds of up to 40 to 50 kilometers per hour are forecast across the island, and strong gusty winds up to 60 to 70 kilometers per hour could be experienced in the western slopes of the central hills, north central and northwestern provinces, and in the Hambantota, Mana, Vaunia, Kilinochchi and Trincomalee districts.
The trade union action launched by the teachers and principals to withdraw from online teaching continued for the 11th consecutive day today. The General Secretary of the Ceylon Teachers Union, Joseph Stalin, said today that teachers have decided to refrain from conducting practical examinations at the GCE ordinary level exam.
Several protests were staged during the past few days by teachers and principals trade unions, seeking a solution to their salary anomalies and demanding the government to withdraw the Kotalavala Defence University Bill. Teachers and principals have decided to continue to withdraw from online teaching as the authorities failed to provide a viable solution to their issues, even after yesterday's protest. We informed earlier that we will change our gears in the trade union action if they fail to provide a solution. Accordingly, teachers have decided to step down from conducting practical tests at the ordinary level exam. On behalf of all teachers and principals trade unions, we have already informed the Commissioner General of Examination and the Secretary of the Education Ministry on our withdrawal. This inhumane government has failed to provide a solution to the fair requests made by the teachers of this country. Teachers' request for their salary is a fair and just request. Teachers are a group of employees who are well qualified, and this government has failed to give them the respect they deserve. The government is bragging about these issues in Parliament. The government should be ashamed about themselves. The government is satisfying themselves by inconveniencing the citizens of this country. Therefore, this government has no moral right to govern this country anymore. We demand for this government to resign immediately.
මේ ආණ්ඩුව සතුටු වෙන්නේ ජනතාවගේ බඩට පහර ගහලා.
අද අධ්‍යාපන වශයෙන්
The education sector of this country is in a very tragic state. It's been almost a year and a half since a child went to school. The government should provide a solution to this. The government said that online learning will be a temporary solution, but it has been a year and a half, and these incompetent leaders have failed to give any solution to these issues.
ඉක්මනින් රජය වහා විසඳුම් ලබා යුතුයි.